watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie. You right now? What's going on with you?
Got them back in now. Let's have a look at the papers for you this morning. PM hopeful Liz Truss is planning a Thatcherite shake-up at the Treasury to give Number 10 more control over the economy, according to the Telegraph.
She's also planning a housing revolution, according to the Daily Express. She plans to overhaul mortgage rules by allowing rental payments to be included in assessments for mortgages.
Rishi Sunak has suffered a new blow in the leadership race as former contender Tom Tugendhat backed Liz Truss. Mr Tugendhat hailed the Foreign Secretary's true Conservative principles.
17 million people across the southeast face a hosepipe ban after the driest July for 111 years. Customers of Southern Water who use hosepipes to wash cars, fill swimming pools or water their gardens will face fines of up to £1,000.
Thousands of British companies are severing economic ties with China, according to the FT. They anticipate a further deterioration of relations between Beijing and the West. And this will, of course, add more pressure to the cost of living crisis.
OK, time to go through the papers now. Here with us this morning is the author James Woodhousen and former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson. Good morning to the two of you. It's lovely to have you both with us. Thank you so much. James, let's start with you. Sunak suffering a new blow. That's in the Times.
Yes, well, I think the campaign against Sunak is, like all the Tory campaigning these past few weeks, extremely fierce. And if they're like that to each other, one does tend to wonder what they'd be like that to us. You know, the way in which the Times has covered it, Sunak faces new blow, suffers new blow. I think it's too early to rule him out because there's still 5 weeks to go.
Yeah, when you look at the polling, though, I mean, she's 20, 25 points ahead.
Yes, but we're in an era of turbulence, Stephen. So, you know, anything could happen in the next 5 weeks. She'll probably win, there's no doubt about it. The forces ranged behind her are considerable. I can't really take, you know, the contribution by Tom Tugendhat, was he in the army, too seriously. You know, he was discredited, I think, in the earlier rounds, and I'm not...
Discredited how? I mean, he didn't get through, but was he discredited?
Well, I think his continual reference to his army career and everything, and his sort of rather owlish glasses that seemed donned for the occasion, made me suspect him more than usual. He's trying to make himself a name from the backbenches a bit in Parliament and so on, but you know, I really miss a sense of policy from him, and that's what I find about the newspaper coverage generally, that it's all about tax, 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 tax. For 50 years or more, we've debated tax and spend, and I think the country's a little bored by that, and there are other much bigger issues coming down the pike which tax won't fix.
No, but I suppose the problem at the moment is people are, it's not so much about tax, I guess, as about money in general, and people wanting more money in their pocket because they haven't got any at the moment.
Well, that's true, but you know, when we're confronting something like energy or inflation and so on, or housing, which we'll all come on to, the money side of it is only the symptomatic surface of it all. What we've got to look at more clearly is, do they have anything to offer beyond the words from Liz Truss, unleash, unlock, and these kinds of things, where even her proposal on housing is all about just sort of switching the rent to a mortgage. What I'd like to see is something more substantive about the future of technology, the future of investment, how engineering has completely been lost from the public debate, and you never see anything about it very much, except, you know, in the business press. That's something that we need to come to grips with if we're to really revive the country.
I mean, they're important issues, Dawn, but are they going to ignite the excitement of the electorate?
No, I think the only thing that's igniting the excitement of the electorate at the moment is affording things, and that is what we're all concentrating on. I mean, everything is just so expensive now, and the energy bills and the fact that it's going to cost like £500 a month.
January,
yeah,
or thereabouts.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure mine's actually quite close to that now, to be honest with you. I'm dreading what's happening to mine. So I think, you know, the Times and the Express are very much, obviously, I think, behind Liz Truss now. And I think the fact that Tom's come out for her, and also Ben Wallace declared his backing on Thursday, didn't he? I think Rishi has a lot of catching up to do. I'm not entirely, I didn't watch it, I must confess, I know you did, James, the interview he did with Andrew Neil last night. I don't think he covered himself in glory in that one as much as he did. And I like the fact that Liz Truss didn't even bother to do an interview because it's a wedding anniversary. Oh. I actually quite respect that. She's been married 22 years, so I actually quite respect that. Actually, some things are quite important in life. So, but I mean, you know, this is a time story. Is like, you know, again, it is about tax. It's about putting money back in people's pockets. And, you know, Tugendhat has backed Liz because, you know, she stands for true conservative principles of tax. And that does seem to be what it's coming down to at the moment. Yeah. It's about giving people the money in their pocket.
Yeah. This, if I may, you know, that's what the media say. And obviously, you know, people are concerned about taxes and money and so on, but also people have an eye to the longer term. Rishi Sunak was actually quite good on that, you know, because just to think a penny here, or a rent reduction there, or a subsidy, or a windfall tax on energy companies is really going to deal with the root problem, I think is very superficial, and I think the populace is more profound than that.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got an advantage there, James.
Oh.
We have got an advantage because we are not just the media. We don't make up our own minds here. We don't decide here what is important to the population. We ask you, don't we? And so you get in touch. You tell us, gbviews@gbnews.uk. What is your priority? What do you want to see the next Prime Minister do? What would win your vote at the general election? Do you want to take a longer term view? Do you want to look at the immediate term? Get in touch. And we shall find. So this is one way of finding out, James. We shall get thousands of emails now, and we shall get the answers to that.
I was going to ask you both, sorry, about the timing of this, because we spoke to Ben Wallace yesterday, who was declaring for Liz Truss. Got Tom Tugendhat today. They are quite late declarations. We're hearing, of course, that Liz Truss is 25 points ahead in the latest polling. So how much do you think they're veering for a cabinet position with these
very much
these
so.
declarations?
I mean, you know, James is right to a certain extent here, but because this is what it's all about now, isn't it? It's about their jobs at the end of the day. And you know, the cynical part of I think everybody watching and listening to us today is going to go, yeah, okay, you're saying all this now, whether it'll happen or not, I'm not sure. Smoke and mirrors, but you are actually all angling for a job, aren't you? Your jobs are on the line here. So I think that's what it's about. But I mean, you know, it's the timing that the ballot papers, I believe, go out to the Tory faithful this weekend. So they will actually, you know, be able to sort of tick their boxes and get them back in during the week. So I think the timing of this is very, very important and very interesting timing. But, you know, the next story we're going to do is the Daily Express one that I've chosen. And it's Liz Truss again, the housing revolution. There's definite push towards Liz, isn't there?
She's pulling things out of her hat now, isn't she? She's pulling things out of her hat. She knows there's a housing crisis.
This is the thing, Ellie. Are you just saying this, or do you actually mean it?
But
and that's what people will be asking.
This isn't actually new.
No, it isn't, and that's the thing. So, you know, the Express have done page 1 on it, and sort of like a big spread inside, you know, 4.4 million renters in this country. She's declared she's going to tear up all the red tape. Easier said than done, obviously.
Would she deregulate the land so that we can build houses nearly everywhere, as long as they're good? That's what one would identify with the sort of warmed-up Thatcherism that Liz Truss
You don't want houses built everywhere, do we?
Yes, we do. We need not on Snowdonia, but, you know, 90% of...
The green belt, you think?
Yes, 90% of Britain's surface area is unurbanised, Stephen, and it's about time we move to mass manufacturing and deregulating the land. Mass manufacturing would allow better quality houses, better insulated houses, and the robots are there to do it. We just haven't tried to do that, and it's amazing that the Tories won't deregulate the land, which was nationalised by Labour in the.
I tend to think, and call me old-fashioned, and I've got a house, so I'm not in a position where I'm looking for one, which obviously does just skew my view. England's green and pleasant land. Plus, I'm from the Lake District. I have real concerns about building on greenbelt land. Brownfield sites, loads of brownfield sites.
There are, in particular, and I think the reason they're not going down the route James is suggesting is because a lot of Tory voters will live in the shires, green and leafy villages, so they are going to be very concerned about having a brand new estate literally built in the field next to them. So I think, again, they are playing very much to the gallery and saying what the Tory heartland want to hear at the moment.
But we all actually happens, don't we? I mean, I hear what you say, Stephen, and, you know, I'm no brown brownfield brutalist either. That was what I'd call Gordon Brown, who pioneered the idea of always building on brownfield land. You know, what we need is houses for the kids. What we need is 500,000, maybe 1 million houses a year. Macmillan nearly did 500,000. Never hear about those targets. Targets alone won't do it. But that and the deregulation of the land, and with local control over house building and house quality, is what we need to meet the crisis of home ownership in this country. Not saying, well, look, if we calculate your rent and we move a little bit around to your mortgage, you know, then we'll be able to do it. It's all cosmetic. It's all Band-Aid. There's a much bigger social crisis brewing, not just with the homeless, but with people who, if you look at China right now, people are not paying their mortgages, right? In the face of Chinese Communist Party repression, they are demonstrating and being locked up by the police because they are refusing to pay their housing bills. We're not far off that in the next few years.
Well, we've been encouraged to go on energy bill strike, aren't we already?
Well, there we are.
Autumn and winter, don't pay your energy bills. I mean, whether people will actually do that or not is another matter, but that is one suggestion as well. I mean, strike is obviously the flavour of the month at the moment.
The problem, there's a big problem with that actually, which is one of our guests raised earlier on, which is if you pay for your energy, direct debit or whatever it may be, they're not gonna cut everybody off straight away.
No.
They're not. But if you're on the low, it's always people at the lower end. If you're on the lower end, if you're on a key meter or a card meter, then if you don't pay, then you cut yourself off. So those are the people who actually would end up without any energy.
Very good point, yeah.
Well, did we hear from Liz or Rishi about nuclear? Did we hear from them about carbon capture and storage? Did we hear from them about direct current, which is a great way to transmit electricity, not just alternating current? Did we hear from them about how we need better and different goals from net zero, which we are not going to reach, and there'll be further social unrest when they try to stop the sale of petrol-driven cars in 2030 and hybrid cars in 2035. You know, you can declare all you like in an election campaign, but you've got to address the fact, since you're talking about the people, that a whole lot of people are motorists, and they're already very nervous about petrol prices. And, you know, it's not just a price question.
And the thing is with that one as well, James, is the small businesses. I mean, it's the people driving, you know, to use the cliche, the white vans.
Man, yes. Otherwise known as the working class.
And the working classes, they're the ones, it's not, you know, very few people drive for leisure these days. It's like, you know, working, getting from A to B with your tools, with your whatever, your gardening equipment, whatever it is. But they're the ones that are really suffering this. I mean, they can't afford to put fuel in their cars or their vans. They can't afford to go to work.
Meanwhile, just very briefly, James, we're almost out of time. In the Daily Mail, what we won't be able to afford to do is put the hosepipe on.
Well,
shortly.
The thing I'm a bit perplexed about is that there are £1,000 fines if you know, water my tomatoes, for example. And who's imposing those?
Who's going to report you?
Wow.
You know, is it the government?
Neighbours might, yeah.
Is it the government? Is it Southern Water? And the second thing to say is, I just got a tweet yesterday that from somewhere around England's green and pleasant land, saying they've just built a reservoir, the first reservoir in this country, apparently, it might be wrong, but I think it's right, for 40 years. So we got tons of rain in this country, you know, not recently, but there are things called reservoirs, especially in the Lake District. And are we really saying that we're so subject to nature, you know, climate change and now low rainfall, that mankind, humankind, can't do anything about it? No, it's a question of infrastructure.
But this is actually Southern Water. Obviously, it's London and the South East that are suffering more. As you look at the map of the country at the moment, up north, it's actually much wetter, and they're going, why are you doing that? This is Southern Water. It's going to affect 17 million people. But basically, Southern Water is owned by an Australian bank, and their chief executive earned £14.8 million last year. Don't know how she copes, do you? And basically, and how much water are they actually leaking? 21 million gallons of water a day through leaks.
Yeah, so that needs to be resolved.
Exactly right.
We are out of time. James, Dawn, we shall see you in the next hour. Thank you very much indeed.
So much.